Climbers, our good friend, our fearless leader, Brent Baxter, was out on a ledge, despondent, down in the dumps. And who saved him? I saved him. And you're going to want to know how I talked him off the ledge. That's what we're going to talk about on this episode, right? Ciao. Thank you. Welcome to the climb. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business, because leverage is what it takes. You have to prove that you have a working business model, that the market likes your music and wants more of it, and then everybody's going to come in to help you get to in front of more eyeballs. That's what it's all about. C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. The C.L.I.M.B, see what we did there? That's a backsynonym from my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who's an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. He's got number ones in Southern Gospel. He's got top 10s in Australia. He's got top 20s on Texas radio. The man is worldwide, and he wants to help you too, songwriters. He helps songwriters turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then on the regular, number 3, when all those machines are working right, you got to create that relationship and get that going so that you can execute and turn that hard work into money. And you can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production singular, no S, and there is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
What's up, buddy?
Man, I'm still emotionally recovering from our text thread the other night when I was out on that limb. I'll be honest with you. I've just tried to kind of put it away and not think about the topic too much, because it makes me a little bit sad, a little angry.
Well, I got to tell you what, I'm going to make it all better for you. But before we do that, let's get into a little bit of business here. Join the C.L.I.M.B community if you haven't done so already. Make sure you go to, it's on Facebook. So facebook.com/groups/the C.L.I.M.B community. You have to ask to be let in. We let everybody in unless you look shady. A couple of those I clicked out on. Started Facebook. Let's see, it was an old woman, started Facebook like 2 weeks ago, and she had 642 friends, and all of them were like, and this is like an old, she looks like an old Midwestern white woman, you know, and all of her friends are these young, like Middle Eastern Pakistanis or something like that. I don't know, like,
Johnny, maybe.
I don't think this is her crowd. I don't think this is who she's hanging out with. Like,
Johnny, it's
like the church group, Brent.
It's possible she's been in the mission field for the past 30, 40 years, has not had time to do Facebook, and she was in India or Pakistan because those Jesus loves those
came
people
back,
too.
And the first thing she did upon returning to the States was follow the climb.
How am I going to keep in touch with all my brothers and sisters that I made over the past 30, 40 years and their grandkids? Is I want to start a Facebook.
Yeah. So, those don't get in. But we try to do our best to filter them out, guys. But we want you to be a part of it. We want to hear about your new releases. We want to hear about your wins. We want to hear about your gigs. And you got to put them as comments in the proper places. We provide the proper place to comment every single week. So don't put it in the feed. The feed is for everybody, right? You got some news, something newsworthy, something funny, something cool. Like sometimes I'll put like little videos with vulgar displays of prowess on musicians or whatever, just for everybody to watch. But if it's all about you, put it in the comment. And believe me, that's where you're going to get the love. You're putting it in the feed because you want to get the love. That doesn't get you the love. That gets you roadhouse. Okay.
That's right.
So make sure you do that right. But every Wednesday, one of those posts that we do is called New Heights. We call it Wednesday Wins. I don't know why we named it twice, but we did. So we like the alliteration on Wednesday Wins, I guess. Brent, what do we got?
All right.
Share those.
That's right. Every Wednesday we post a New Heights. You can post in there any day, but it's the new one comes out every Wednesday, and you post your wins as a comment under that post. So we know where the party is. We know where to find people. And that way, if you post there, like other people get the notification like, oh, so-and-so commented on the same thread as you, right? So more likely that more people are going to see your stuff if you go where the party is, by the way. So anyway, some wins we have.
Oh yeah. Can we just restate that? If you put your crap in the feed because you're not paying attention to what we're saying,
we're not going to pay attention to you.
Nobody's going to pay attention to you. It's going to get taken down. You're probably going to get a little nasty gram from Johnny. But if you put it as a comment, everybody that's already commented on that is alerted.
But exactly. It just makes sense. It works better for everybody.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see here. So a couple of the wins. Stephen Charles says had a copy of a song picked up to pitch to River House artist. Had an artist cut co-written with Patrick Adams and Michael McFarland, both climbers, announced for November 10th, and just got word that another cut is coming out on December 11th. Here's to climbing. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So way to go, Stephen and Patrick and Michael. That's awesome. We have another climber on here, Harry Wolf, if that is your real name, says, my first co-write, Redeemed, recorded by Blue Oyster Cult in 1972, is included on their recently released 50th anniversary album. It's already earned me close to 0.006 and boosted my open mic career.
Nice. Well, good.
Hey, don't fear the royalty. Don't fear the royalty.
Don't fear the cowbell.
Blue Oyster Cult song. So that's cool. I'm like, he wrote a Blue Oyster Cult song, and he's a climber. That makes me happy. That touches me in places I can't talk
First
about.
of all, like, because he wrote a Blue Oyster Cult song, bottom line, I don't care who you are, he will be cool forever.
Yeah. So Harry, thanks for listening. That's very cool. I'm glad he shared that with us. Now let's see here. We'll finish with this one. Always more than we can get to, but this is climber Jacob Reel says, released my first EP over the weekend. Wouldn't have been possible without the Climb podcast. Can't wait to hear y'all's perspective on the recent developments at Spotify. And then he clicks a link to the stuff going on at Spotify, which is perfectly appropriate there because it's in the feed and it's a win and all that good stuff. So to y'all and to everyone else who posted on there, congratulations. Keep on climbing.
Oh, and one more win, because I want to brag on some previous Daredevil talent. So last time you were in town,
yes,
we had the first Climb takeover, right? That went really well, and that was on a Monday. And then Wednesday, that was the week of Janelle's birthday. So Wednesday, I got tickets to go see Brandy Clark. We both love Brandy Clark at the Ryman. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know that the specific date. I knew she had bought these tickets, but she had bought Alana Springsteen tickets. If y'all haven't heard of Alana Springsteen, killer artist, up and comer. And so we had two sets of tickets. We couldn't sell them, so we just gave them to Brent. And you and Dustin Bird, who's been on the Climb and who was on the show on Monday, y'all went to go see her. And then he texted me video of the guitar player.
Let me tell you this. This is funny. So Dustin and I we went and wrote, and so then we caught an Uber to the show at the Exit Inn. And so Dustin's an artist, producer, songwriter, all that good stuff. And so we're on the way there. He's like, so tell me again what Johnny does, And I'm like, oh, he helps people. And I told him this whole story that's been like a whole podcast episode about this guy named Jacob Cade, who's rock, guitar guy. And Johnny did his Facebook magic and did an ad and helped him put 400 extra butts in the seats to show up early at this place where he had no footprint, but Johnny does his magic and Jacob's awesome. And they got like 400 people there to open early for like Dawkins, I think it was, at a rock show. Mm-hmm. And it was like, he does that kind of magic, right? He's like, cool. That's on the way to the venue. We get to the venue and Alana's guitar player looks real familiar. I'm like, dude, that looks like, and that looks like Jacob Cade. Like I was just talking about, like randomly, right? And then, they do this big solo thing with him, and he's shredding on guitar. She's like, Jacob. I'm like, Dustin, that's the dude I was just telling you about. It's been bugging me all night. That's Jacob Cade right there. I was just telling you about this guy. That's him. I'm like, yeah, that sounds shady. I'm like, no, look. And so I took video, and sent it to Johnny and Janelle, who were at the Brandy Clark show.
Yeah.
And then you can pick up from there.
And then so this is where confirmation bias creeps in, right? So Jacob is from Colorado, and he just recently moved to Nashville, like I think June. Okay,
Mhm.
he came out here in June, so just a few short months ago, and uh, and I'm like, I'm looking at the video, and it looks a lot like him, but I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I don't. That's not him. Can't be him. That can't be him because you know why? He would have told me that he's got that gig, right? He
Right.
would have told me that. So, actually, this morning I'm having words with him because, so unbeknownst to me, like that was him. He had that gig. So, so he texted me this morning about some other thing. Hey, man, I'm doing this thing. You know, he sends me a new track that he just did,
Mm.
and wanted to get some feedback on it, and blah blah blah. I'm like, and then he mentioned then he was asking me like, "Hey, can you hook me up with some people to get some opening gigs,
Mhm.
around town, like at the basement and stuff like that?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, do this, do this, this." I said, "And by the way, just make sure you tell me when you're playing because I love going to see him play."
Yeah,
He's
he's
like,
great.
"Oh, yeah, it was funny, dude." He goes, "Yeah, I had a gig the other day at the Exit Inn, but it came up real fast, and I didn't tell you, sorry." And I was like, all of a sudden, I'm like, "Wait, hold on a second." Like I said. That's really funny because Brent told me that he was in town and I had tickets to go see Atlanta Springsteen, but I gave them to Brent and his friend Dustin, and they went there and they thought they saw you. But I said, "There's no way that was you." He goes, "No, that was me." I'm like, mother effer, like, what the hell, dude? Like, so yeah, he's on that whole tour,
Oh, he's killing
for
it.
the rest of this year, man. He's crushing it. So,
I know.
and actually, I went and looked at her tour doc. I want to go see him now.
Oh, yeah, oh,
And
yeah.
I went and looked at her tour stops, and she's in Australia right now. I'm like, "Aren't you supposed to be in Australia?" And he's like, "Yeah, they couldn't get us work visas fast enough, so
Oh,
we're
but
doing it." But that's relationships. Like the drummer's a friend of his that got
mhm.
the gig. They said, "You know any guitar players?" He's like, "Yes, I do."
Yes, and
And he said they love me. So
that's so
good
funny.
for Jacob Cade. I'm proud of him, man. It's
Yeah,
great.
that's awesome to see that good stuff happening for him, and,
And I'm
now
pissed I didn't see the show
yes. So,
because if I had known Jacob was going to be there, you guys would be going to Brandy Clark instead.
I guess either way, I win in that
Either way, you
scenario,
win.
so I'm not gonna second guess it. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just be like, "I saw a good show," or, "I would have seen a good show." Either way, I'm glad I'm friends with Johnny. So,
All right, guys.
congrats,
Well, listen,
Jacob.
follow the podcast and tell a friend about it, man. There's good stuff on here. We want everybody to be digging this. We got more and more professionals listening to this. I got professionals calling me now that I'm like potentially doing business with. I just listened to episode 400, dude. Love
Yeah.
that, man. Here's what I learned. Like, I love hearing that.
Oh,
So
heck yeah.
we are doing good in the world. So let's talk. Why don't you talk about the text you sent me?
Alright, so, I got an email from either I think Nashville Briefing, which by the way, Nashville Briefing it's a free email. They just kind of, "Hey, here's some new videos that are out from people. Here's some like industry stuff." So it's a good free email if you just want to help keep up with what's going on in Nashville. If you're a Nashville file like I am or Nashville centric, so just the Nashville Briefing. So I get that email, and I don't always open them up, but I was opening that one up, and I looked through it, and it says something about BMI putting out like a royalty calculator for like Spotify and Apple. I thought, oh, well, that's cool. Let me check that out because we're always looking to go, well, what are we going to get paid? What's this like? So apparently it says legal and consulting firm Manat, Phelps and Phillips developed a tool to calculate payouts across Spotify and Apple Music. So you basically, and we'll need a link to this in the show notes, but it's on Billboard, actually billboard.com, and they have a link to that. And you just enter your streams in, and it breaks it down by like sound recording earns this much, mechanical earns this much, and performance earns this much. So I thought, okay, let's see, let's test this out. So I was testing out, going, what's a recent release I have that I know approximately how many streams on Spotify it has. I'm putting in a number there, and I cried just a little bit because it's not a lot. And so I put the numbers in, and it kind of made me sad for this, say, one release of what I kind of did the division on like my third of the song and take out 10% for admin, blah, 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 or whatever, all this kind of stuff. And then go, oh, wow. Okay, well, I'm going to send this to Johnny, but I'm going to be a little sad about it. And that started our conversation. So yeah.
Yes. And I thought, okay, this would be a good podcast because genuinely, from a songwriter perspective, I feel your pain. I know where you're coming from. We know lots of pro songwriters who've had catalogs that just aren't making them money like the radio used to make them money,
Yeah.
and and maybe some physical product stuff. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but here's the thing: I think that I don't think I know. I'm right about this. I know, like the new world, better world for you, but the business model has to change a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you're already kind of doing that a little bit.
Well, I
But
am. I mean, well, maybe put some numbers on this. Maybe I should tell a little more of the
yeah, so
that
well,
set
let's
that
just
up.
first of all, let's talk about it in like big picture first. Okay,
Mhm.
so do you know what the most played song on terrestrial radio is right now?
No, I'd have to look that up on Billboard probably.
Every breath you take
Really? Okay, that's funny. Is that new? Is that
by the Police.
yeah.
For like over, and do you know how many spins it has that makes it the most played song on terrestrial radio worldwide?
No, I'm very curious.
15 million.
I mean, that's just okay. Slow clap for Sting and the Police, right? How old
Right.
is that song? Older
That came
than
out
a
in the
lot of our
80s.
listeners, and it's
Yeah.
number one.
The
Fun?
most play, it has the most radio spins, terrestrial radio spins worldwide of any song.
Oh, this is like total lifetime.
Total
Oh,
lifetime.
okay.
Total lifetime. Okay. Like Yesterday's up there. I think Brown Eyed Girl is up there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's talk about so let's just talk about that. So the commission, the publishing on a radio spin is, I think it's 12 cents a song, right, in the United States.
Yeah, something like that. And it's moving depending on when you hear this. So we just call it 12 for funsies.
Okay, so
Simplicity.
at 15 million spins, that's 1.8 million dollars of revenue.
Now that's for mechanicals. Okay, this is not spins. This is 12.1, I think it is for mechanicals. Say if you sold 15 million units of that song, that doesn't have to do with your PRO money with your spins. That's a different revenue stream.
What does a radio station pay for a spin?
Now that is a good question. That depends on size of market, right?
Uh-huh.
Depends on time of day. So basically, a spin at drive time in Houston, it's going to have
Uh-huh.
a big listenership.
Fourth largest city in the United States. Yep.
Right. Drive time. People are in their cars. Traditionally, the more people listen to radio. That's going to be worth a lot more in their super secret and formula than, say, midnight in a small town in South Dakota or local station in South Dakota.
Is there an average?
Man, I don't know. That's a good question because I think the PROs kind of hold on to that, and so I'm talking from a U.S. perspective here because you also have ASCAP, CSAC, and BMI, which are also getting licenses from the radio stations, and so basically what they do is they have a big pool of money that comes in from their licensing from all these radio stations, and then they get the reports of who's getting spun where and how much, and I think they kind of take that fund and kind of divvy it out. And I'm sure that they slush some stuff around to make some of their big dogs happy and some of that stuff. It's like, that's my understanding of it, is it's a little super secret slush fund sauce going on there for your radio spins. Because you've heard those stories too of like, hey, I got this BMI check for this much and you got it for ASCAP check for what? How much? How come that didn't match up? Well, that's a secret slush. So
yeah, that's the slush. Well, yeah, because what they're going to do with the blanket money, right? Is,
which is where the payouts come from, or the radio licenses. Like they
don't go to the blanket fund, do they?
Well, like a radio station, say
a radio station have to report the songs that they
have
play.
to report. But where does that money come from? That money comes from the license that they paid. They pay an ASCAP license, the BMI license, the CSAC license. And so they do have to report what they, or well, actually they have to, according to FCC, every second of airtime is accounted for, right? But the PROs just do their own surveys, right? They do their own surveys and they survey and they're looking for BMI songs. And then they do what I guess would be a statistically significant sample size survey of what's getting played. That's how they determine the number ones and different stuff and their payouts. I guess Billboard may do a different thing for like who's number one, but like the PROs are doing that sampling to figure out how they divvy up the money from those
Okay.
licenses. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
So it's super funky, and
so
I don't know
that's.
if there's a clear answer, and I don't know if they
I think
want
it's somewhere
there to be
between
a
like
clear answer.
12 and 15 cents. Like, I think it's somewhere between 12 and 15 cents. But I
Okay.
didn't know that they all. I thought that they were paying like because they reported the songs that they spun that they're paying for spins on each one of those songs, and that revenue gets attributed to that.
Yeah,
And I
no,
didn't think they have an overall broad license at terrestrial
yeah,
radio.
they do. So they negotiate
They just
those
have
licenses,
a license from the PROs to spin whatever the hell they want, and they
yeah,
just have to report what it is.
and then
And then they leave it up to the PROs to divide it up.
they leave it for the PROs to figure out what they played and where that divides up. They're like, we pay our license. That means we can play BMI songs and ASCAP songs and CSAC songs,
Right.
and
Okay.
y'all go figure out what we're doing.
And that's
they
the same
figure
way
out-
it works at your clubs too, when you're playing live music at a club, cover
Yeah.
bands, stuff like that. Like that's
Yeah,
why
the
you don't
club
get
has
popped for that
has
because
a license. They're not
they have a
reporting what
license.
all gets played in the club. So, like, I had to when I was with ASCAP. I'm with the BMI now, but when I was with the ASCAP, I had you mentioned on the intro like some love in Texas. So I had a song Armadillo that was recorded by Junior Gordon hit the top 10 in Texas. This was several years ago. So my first top 10 in Texas, like hit number 10 for like a week or two, I guess a week, and then bounce back out. But I've never had a charting song in Texas before, and I'm like, I'm curious how this is going to work out. So I'm waiting for that. I'm not waiting around, but when that statement comes in, I'm like, ooh,
You're
this
curious to see what
covers
that looks like. Yeah.
that period of when that was on Texas radio. I'm wondering how this shows up. How's it going to compare to like Canadian stuff I've had? I'm just curious. Song wasn't on the report at all for that period. Like
Wow.
Ghost, right? ASCAP is like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I call them up, and they're like, it never hit the survey. I'm like, it was a top 10 in Texas. It charted. It was getting played. So it was getting played on a mix of like mom and pop stations and probably a couple bigger stations, right? To hit the top 10.
Yeah.
And they're like, never hits a survey. I'm like, I can send you a screenshot of the chart. They're like, it's got to hit the survey. So they don't know everything that's getting played all the time. That's in that case, an ASCAP song. They just survey, and it just didn't happen to get played during the survey time. So I got no money.
So right here, like, first of all, this goes to my argument. Okay. Like, you're literally calling up your PRO going, WTAF, here's a top 10 on your, why doesn't it even show up on this report? And they're like, what's that?
Yeah.
Like, we don't even know.
Didn't hit.
So there's a million, you don't know who did something wrong or what happened in there, but how the hell does a song get enough spins to get it to be charting in the top 10 and doesn't show up on the radar screen?
It wasn't played on the stations they were surveying when they were surveying, right?
Oh, that's what it is. Because they don't survey everything. Random.
It's a survey sample, like Nielsen ratings, right? Hey, do you want to be a Nielsen family?
This was last year, wasn't it?
No, this was like 2013, 14, something like that. This was like 10 years ago when this happened. This was a while back.
Still, we had laptop computers then. How freaking difficult is it to get everybody connected to make a damn...
Yeah,
to get a real act. Why do this survey?
Well, so they can get a statistically significant sample size of like, oh, this is kind of how the pie is getting split.
Why do you need a statistically significant sample size when you can get all the data?
Well, that is a good question, Johnny.
Why not just get all the data?
That is a good question. Yes, because the radio stations know because they have to account for that. It's FCC stuff, right? They have to know what all's being used. So, I mean, they do it for TV, right? If something's getting played,
because with broadcast television, okay, before it was digital. Now, by the way, TV's digital. Like the TV frequencies that they used to use to broadcast television, they're bad. The government owns them now. They're not. They're not even owned by the
stations or whatever,
by the networks with FCC licenses. It's all digital now. Okay, like so all your NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox. All digital. They do not use the UHF or the VHF frequencies anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Johnny. I've gone from being depressed about my streaming rates to being depressed about radio too. Thank you. That's helped a lot. I'm back out on the ledge, crawling back out now. Can you hear
well, this is
creaking?
going to help.
Yeah.
This is going to help.
Okay.
So, okay, when you talk about the overall, like the big picture stuff, let's first start out by saying that prior to streaming, the record industry was a $75 billion a year industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big the whole industry was worldwide.
With the beat.
Right?
All right.
With a beat. And remember when we predicted like years ago on this podcast, I said, when, as streaming takes off, they're going to surpass that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it was the same year, I think it was 2017. It was the same year that the record business had hit rock bottom,
Mm-hmm.
right? They went from a $75 billion a year industry to like a $15 billion a year industry in 2017. And Spotify had just kind of taken hold into the public lexicon, and they had the most amount of streams ever, right? And so, and at that same time, that same year, electronic gaming had exploded to a $150 billion a year industry.
Yeah.
And I said, because it's digital and everybody can access it. So I said, that's what's going to happen to the record industry. Mark my words. Well, guess what? We're there. We're at like 161 billion dollars in revenue.
Wow.
Already in 2023. When what happened, it was streaming. So how did that happen? Right? Why did that happen? Because think about like the big thing, like you get a gold record back in the day, right? That's 500,000 records in the United States.
Yeah.
That's enough to keep your record deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just and platinum's even better.
Yeah.
Right? A really, really good freaking record, 3-4 million, right? Triple, quadruple platinum. But the big records, right? The big ones, we get maybe, how many of those do you get a year? Maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 across. Like that number is 10 million plus.
Yeah, diamond.
Right?
Yeah.
The diamond. Okay. So 10 million records, lots of money being made, no doubt about it. Okay. But that's the extent of the amount of consumers that went out and paid for that music.
Yeah.
Right. Now with Spotify, I believe they have over, just Spotify alone, 250 million paid subscribers. Right. And that doesn't include Apple's, who says they've got, 150 million paid subscribers. Doesn't include Amazon. Everybody with Amazon Prime automatically gets Amazon Music, So the point is that there are now exponentially more people paying to consume music on a regular basis than there ever was before.
Yeah.
And I suspect that, people who are still happy listening to radio, when radio goes under, and it's going to end, it's going to come to an end at some point, just because the money's not there.
Yeah.
Right. They can't stay afloat. So when that happens, then I think more people are going to be kicked onto the streaming platform. So it's even going to get even bigger because they like music, but they say, I'm going to get it for free. As long as I get it for free. Now, then all of a sudden, you know what? $10 a month, not a bad deal.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So the pie is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
Okay. And what else happens is that the pie is now decentralized. Right. In order to go make that money, I don't need to have a record deal, and I don't need to be on radio.
Yeah.
For the artists, right? So the market grows. So let's just start with terrestrial radio and the way it used to work. Let's take like Every Breath You Take, as big as you can get. Okay, there was millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars made off of this. There's no doubt about it, right? The record, the tour, the merch, the publishing on this, etc. Okay. But without streaming, take that out of the picture, right? This comes and it goes.
Right.
It's a big hit for a while and then it's over, right?
Yeah.
And how did record labels figure out to, exploit those old copyrights a second time, the big ones?
I mean, you have, sync, but you have greatest hits records. You have
greatest hits records,
Yeah.
right? More product to sell.
Well, yeah, for
and those
record
sell
labels,
really well.
record labels, even recurrent airplay doesn't help them out if they don't have publishing on it because they got to sell product, right? Because they don't make money.
Right.
It's not like Europe where the artist gets money from just being on the radio. So there's like, let's do hits packages, special event like the Blue Oyster Cult thing, their 50th anniversary edition. Let's
Yeah.
tell some more Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah. No, exactly. But that's how they did. They kept,
Yeah.
the greatest hits thing, that the essential,
Yeah.
Brent Baxter, like
20th
like that's
Masters. Yeah.
And then the remastering. That was another one,
Mhm.
right? Remastered for CD, remastered for
Laserdisc.
this or for that. Another excuse to go sell 1 million pieces of product, right? At a profit. But there was a limited life. Okay. Now you are, let's say you're the biggest Bob Dylan fan on the planet.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, the biggest, like every single piece of product that Bob Dylan has put out, you own it.
Yes.
You own the first CD, you own the last CD release, you own the box set, the greatest hits, the re-records, the essentials, the remasters, everything Bob Dylan, you own it.
Yeah.
How you listening to Bob Dylan today?
Digital.
There you go.
It's convenient.
Yes. And what happens every time you listen to it digitally?
Somebody's making
Revenue's
money.
created.
Yeah, revenue's created.
Revenue's created, right? So
you're saying I need to get on some Bob Dylan records? What I'm hearing here.
What's all this 1 in a million stuff? Okay. So now, so the way that record labels were set up before, we know, because good climbers listen to this show all the time, know that the surprising number in the record industry of who made money and who didn't, right?
Mhm.
Like 9 major record labels back in the day when everything was popping on all cylinders and there was no streaming. There's only 2 choices to listen to music,
Mhm.
and they own the radio, they own the airwaves. And each of those major record labels had about 500 artists signed to the label across all genres total. And only 25 of them made any money.
Yeah.
Only 5% of the investments that they made in other artists made money. Why?
The tyranny of space. There wasn't enough bandwidth. They weren't getting enough radio airplay. People didn't know they were there. They weren't
In
selling
order
records.
to make money like that, you had to have a bigger audience, a big audience. And in order to have a big audience,
Had to get on radio.
It had to be on radio. I mean, there are just a very few artists that figured out ways around it without radio. Metallica was one.
Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy
like
Buffett.
That, Grateful Dead. Probably
Yeah.
some. Yeah.
So there's a handful, but the by far the vast 99% of all the brand name artists that have multi-million-dollar brand names got there because they were on radio, and they only play 12 songs an hour, and they have rotational format programming. So I would venture to guess that your average radio station is spinning somewhere between probably 28 and 40 songs a week, and for those same songs for like months. Right. So how many total different songs does a radio station play any given year? Right. Probably less than 100.
Yeah.
Maybe 100, like
Crazy.
over the course of 365 days, we're going to spin 100 different songs.
Yeah.
Right. So very, very close club, tyranny of space. Right. And we figured out that through just going back and doing the math on that there were literally from 1960 to now, there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,700 artists that have gotten to the level of notoriety where they have multi-million-dollar brand names in 60 years.
Yeah.
Right? 2,700 artists, give or take a few hundred. Okay.
Yeah.
Even give or take 1,000. That's an astonishingly low number.
Yeah.
For 60 years, right? So what we have now is definitely a situation where, the per stream rate could be, the difference on this calculator between Apple and Spotify is astonishing.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Pretty big percentage difference.
It's almost double.
Yeah. What Apple pays out versus Spotify.
Yeah.
So God bless Apple.
So
go listen to Apple.
There is a life cycle on a record on terrestrial radio, right? And then when it's done, it's done. It could be reissued under a greatest hits. It could be, so of all the artists signed to a record label, only 5% of them get on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And of those 5% that get on the radio, how many of them have hits?
Yeah.
You know, how many of them turn into artists with a long career and are not like a one-hit wonder or a two-hit wonder, right? I mean, the average, I think, lifespan is like 7 years, 7 albums of the artist. That's your average between your one-hit wonder and the Rolling Stones, right?
Yeah.
They've been doing it for 60 years. So it's not a big window, right, to make it happen. And then the product is sold on the market. The product is purchased. The physical product is purchased. Game over. I own it. Now it's good. And it goes into my library. And the only way I'm going to buy it again is something happens to it, right? If it gets wrecked. And I really, really love that album. But otherwise, it's not it's sold once. That's why they had to figure out greatest hits, right? But they had to figure out remastering all that stuff, right? To try to breathe more life into that. So now we have streaming. It's on demand, right? Mm-hmm. And you have songs that are, I mean, regularly these big artists are getting 100 million streams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're Taylor Swift, you're getting 1 billion streams.
Yeah.
Right. 1 billion streams. Like, and you have, I think, doesn't she have like 1 billion monthly listeners? Didn't she cross that?
I don't know. That's ridiculous.
Like, that's insane.
How do you do that?
But so now it's ever more, right? It can be used all the time because it's on demand. So how is it that the record label with this, from 2017, when they were at 15 billion to 2023, 6 years later, jump up to more than double the best year that they ever had? Because people are streaming more music. More people are paying for music. More people are streaming the music. Okay. A stream lives on. It lives on in a playlist, right? There are playlists that are out there that have regular, steady traffic that have no new material on there. They're not like a Spotify editorial playlist that's constantly being curated with the new stuff this Friday that came out. It's like, no, these are my favorite songs, and somebody hits it and the search is right, and they got a huge amount of traffic. Those songs get an incredible amount of streams because people continue to listen to them, and they can do that at will. So not only do you have more people paying to consume music, okay, but also each individual person's consuming each piece of music more, right? Because even if you own the product, like the Bob Dylan example, you're still streaming because it's just more convenient.
Yeah.
Right. And every time you stream, you're generating revenue for somebody.
Okay? Right.
Okay. So a stream lives on, a single goes on the radio and then it comes off the radio. Right. Like, I mean, some of the biggest success stories, that song might be on radio playlists for a year. But what do you say the average amount of lifespan of a single is on terrestrial radio back in the day? Like 9 months, 6 months?
Maybe something like that, I guess. Yeah. You hear quite a bit.
So as a songwriter, from your business perspective, right, on the terrestrial radio side of the table here, you have, you have to get to be writing with an artist that's one of the 25 out of the 500 that's going to get on the radio.
Yeah.
You also have to have the song on the album of the artist that gets on the radio be the one that's on the radio.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Now, back in the day, having a cut on a big record still made a lot of money.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. You go platinum
on the mechanical sales.
Yeah. Just having one song on a platinum record would generate $91,000 when the statutory rate was 9.1 cents per album sold. If you're a solo writer owning your publishing, you just made $91,000 off some album cut that went platinum. Yeah. Yep. Not bad.
Not bad. And so you see how it's like literally you're friggin' Luke Skywalker trying to shoot those 2 missiles into that 2 meter wide thing on the whole Death Star to to make that living, right?
Yeah.
And it's a good living that you can make. Okay.
Yeah.
But that means that in order to get to that artist that's on that label, that may be the artist that's chosen to be put on the radio, which you may have the song that actually gets on the radio, right? And then to do that a lot,
Yeah.
like to do it again once you did it once. I mean, man, that is a whole lot of networking to very few people,
Yes.
right? Very few people, and it's a very much of a closed club. Well, now we have a situation where artists don't need permission to make money on their music, right? And we did the math in 2021 with that Spotify report, and we figured out that out of the 13,400 artists who were paid at least $50,000 in Spotify money just for streaming, okay? When we backed out all of the major label artists, when we backed out the current major label artists and the multi-million-dollar brand names, it was like, give or take 1,000, like 8,400 indie artists who never would have a record deal, who would never get on the radio.
Yeah.
They had figured out a way to generate $50,000 in streaming money from Spotify as crappily as they pay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next year, it went up to 16,500. So 3,100 new artists in 2021, 3,100 more artists in 2021 than in 2020 figured out a way to make at least $50,000 in streaming just from Spotify.
Which, by the way, is about 10,050,000 streams.
10,050,000 streams. There you go.
According to this calculator, to get up to about, if you wrote it by yourself and own it, publishing and everything,
Own the master,
it says like that's like 48,000. So yeah.
There you go. Right. So we did not sign three. Keep in mind, by the way, that the record business in 2017 at $15 billion in gross revenue was 3 labels and a handful, 3 majors, not 9, and a handful of like really, stout indie labels, right? I mean, most people don't know, like Morgan Wallen's on an indie label. He's on Big Loud. Like, he's not on Warner. He's not on Sony. He's not on Universal, right? So how does, like, all of a sudden it shrinks to its lowest and then it just skyrockets past the previous high, right? And crushes the goal. It's like, it's astounding, okay? Because of streaming, the song continues to live on. It continues to get traffic, right? So there's actually more money to be made per song streaming than on radio.
Yeah, I mean, okay? I would say kind of where I come in on this, because ultimately I am an optimist. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stuck around this business this long. It almost seems like it's gone from, the music business has gone from fattening up, tens of people to starving millions. Like, more people are in it. They're just all starving, even though there's more food being handed out, or earned, I guess. So what I did was I was looking up what got me kind of depressed. I was like, okay, let's see, maybe some of these indie cuts that, I've been getting and kind of where they're talking about, their streaming numbers, and to see what might come in off something like this. So I just put in, like, say, 150,000 streams of, say, a three-way ride. So like 150,000 streams. Spotify pays all in $720. Apple Music is $1,320, so almost double. So I was just looking at that going, okay, so that's 150,000.
How many streams was that?
150,000. So this is spread across Spotify and Apple. I guess it's 150,000 for each, so say 150,000. So I'm like, okay, sound recording. So whoever owns the master, so like would be the label, or if the artist owns the masters, the artist, $555. So they're making a lot more than the publishing pays, right? Because publishing is total of, let's see, 165. So if you are the labels, make a lot more than the publishers on those spins. So 165, you have $89 in mechanical, $76 in performances. Okay, so because what they figured out was streaming it's a split mechanical and performance. Like radio play is just performance, there's no mechanical. Record sales is just mechanical, no performance. For streaming, they do this kind of hybrid thing. It's kind of a
For the
mechanical
record, the
side,
mechanical
performance.
royalty that he's talking about is the copyright, right? That goes to the songwriters.
Well, no, mechanical and
The-
performance, those are two different publishing revenues, but it's all
right, but the
publishing.
performance being that, like, if you go, if when Van Halen did "You Really Got Me," they didn't make any money off of the publishing on radio, even though that was a big hit for them.
Correct.
Right?
It went to
Like
the
it went to
songwriters
the
and the
Kinks who
publishers.
wrote the song, but there's no performance paid for because it's Van Halen's version of it that's creating the revenue.
Right.
That doesn't matter to terrestrial radio. There's a backdoor deal that American terrestrial radio made with Congress back in the 30s. Like, oh, that's too much. We don't want to pay that, so we're just going to pay the songwriters, not the performances. That, by the way, not the case in Europe.
Right.
But it is the case in Europe for you if you're an American songwriter, because Europe doesn't reciprocate.
They reciprocate the FU.
Yeah. Sorry. Unless you got a European address, you're not getting paid for those performances as an American on European radio, because we're not paying their artists. So that makes sense. You know?
Yeah. So mechanical performance are both go to publishers and writers. And so I was doing the math and I said, okay, 150,000 streams. Say if it's a 3-way and I own my publishing. So mechanical, so you divide that by 3, is I've made basically $30 off mechanicals on 150,000 streams. Performance, call that $76 divided by 3 at the 3 of us, $25. So about $55. And that's assuming I own my publishing. If somebody else owned my publishing, it's, $27.50. That's actually the writer share, and $27.50 that's publisher share, depending on your publishing deal and if you're recouped, unrecouped. So many things factor into that. But say I'm self-published right now, so if I'm getting a new song recorded out there, 150,000 streams, I made about $55. That's when it gets to me, minus any admin fees from people that collect my money, like Blue Water. They have a fee that they take out for collecting that stuff and make sure it gets to me. So I'm like,
right.
All right. So I see, 150,000 streams on Spotify. Cool. I made about $55. It's about double that. So it's about $100 if it's Apple, if it's 150,000 streams on Apple, and hopefully you're getting streams in more than just one platform. But I'm like, okay, well that's, so I need about 600,000 streams, say a month to cover some grocery. No, more like a week to cover my groceries. This is where I started getting out on that limb, like figuring out like, oh my goodness, as a songwriter, not as a performer, going, holy crap, I got to get a lot of streams every week to cover my groceries. Like if I'm counting on that to feed my family. So that's what I'm
okay. Yeah. No, that's right. That's right. This is right. Okay. But listen, to restate what we talked about earlier in this episode, that in 2020, there was about 8,400 indie artists that figured out how to make at least $50,000 just in streaming, just from Spotify, which according to you was like, it's actually a little more. It's like more like 11 million streams, isn't it? Like,
to make 50 grand.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me do my math again. Let me put that in there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's like 11 million streams, 10,500,000 streams. So 8,400 artists. First of all, 8,400 artists made created at least 11 million streams each in 2020. Okay, indie artists, like without record deals, without anything. Okay, and then so I think, like right now, you're looking at the artists that you're working with that aren't label artists, Brent, are doing 100,000 streams, right? They're baby artists. They're growing, okay? But these are seeds that you're planting, okay? Like, for instance, with John Stork, who we just had on, whose episode will come after this one. But so I think you need to be thinking in terms of like 10 million streams plus, right?
Yeah.
because then in 2021, all of a sudden it's not 8,400. It's more like 11,500 artists that made at least 10 million streams of traffic each on Spotify.
Yeah.
Making that kind of money.
And odds are those
right?
can be the artists with catalog that cumulatively over their different songs are getting 10 million streams.
So let's talk about that too. So this is another thing I want to say. So I like with Mackenzie O'Brien, right? Like she has a catalog that's bigger than Josh, who we just started releasing on, right? So she has a lot more streams as a result of the promotions that she's pushing on her current releases with us. She gets a lot of ancillary free streams because people go down that rabbit hole and it's right there to go down, right?
Yeah.
By the way, improves her popularity score. It has all these other benefits. So yes, that same thing with this podcast, right? Because we have a catalog of this podcast. We're able to make money on this podcast network, more money than other podcasts. Why? Because we have over 650 episodes now, that people can go down and they will consume because they like it, because it's there, it's on demand. Okay. So before, and you know this, Brent, because you had a big hit with Alan Jackson's song, and you got a truckload of money. That was awesome. And then it was like a desert, right? Like
it's the
all of a sudden,
curve, it comes up the cliff, then it's, when it peaks and it's in the top 5 and then starts coming off and downside. And then you get long tail and not making off. It's not as much of a recurrent as some of Alan's other, like Chattahoochee and that kind of stuff. It's not getting the recurrent spins of a Chattahoochee or some of his other,
because it's a ballad and not an up-tempo song.
That's definitely part of it. Yeah. And he has so many number ones to choose from. You're like, I'm going to play some Alan Jackson. We're going to play Tall, Tall Trees or something. So,
okay. So now let's talk about remember the interview with Tony Lane in Denmark, right? Where he was like, man, it's 1,500 songs you got to write and submit to get the one that makes some money.
Yeah.
Right. And that's Tony Lane. Okay.
Yeah.
Like of all the songwriters that have made money, I go and I look at we've got the songwriting festival coming up. It's November 11th. When does this drop?
Let's see. This is going to drop on so right before that, November 7th, probably.
Okay. So if you're in Arizona, come to see the songwriting festival on November 11th in Gilbert. It's amazing. Right.
Yeah.
David Lee Murphy's the headliner. He wrote, he's as an artist, he's got big hits with Dust on the Bottle, and which is just a staple on radio and a staple on Broadway, and Party Crowd. But he's written far bigger hits for all your favorite artists. We've got D. Vincent Williams, we've got Barrett Baber, we've got Joe Leathers. If you go look at the average songwriter, like hit songwriter's resume, very few look like Ashley Gorley or
none of
Shane
them,
McMahon.
actually.
Right. They've got maybe they've got 5 or 10 hits spread out over 25 or 30 years.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And they're doing really well. Yeah.
So here, the difference between potential artists that you could write with to make money with, just from 1 year, from 2020 to 2021, grew by 18%. Artists who can make money, right? And generate revenue. Okay. And in a previous episode, remember, we talked about how record labels weren't breaking artists anymore. Radio's not working. And one of the comments that was made by, this was a Billboard article that we were unpacking, by the way. If you didn't listen to it, it's worth going back to listen to. But a bunch of record executives were anonymously interviewed. And what are they saying? Like, they are switching their business models away from depending on big, huge hits to generate the revenue that they need to keep the lights on and be, number one, stay in business, and number two, hopefully make a profit, to what? Like having a bunch of artists, like 30 artists signed that are going to hit solid bass hits.
Yeah.
Right. Solid singles, solid doubles. They're not going for the Grand Slam anymore because they don't think that can happen. So I think for writers out there, and then the final thing is, when I say that the song lives on and continues to make money, before streaming, you don't hear and would never hear anything about the Bruce Springsteens and the Stevie Nicks and Pink Floyd's getting offered, insane amounts of money for their catalogs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they wrote those songs continue to make money. Again, if you're the biggest Stevie Nicks fan, you're not listening to the records, you're streaming it.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. And so every single day you listen to Stevie Nicks, you're generating revenue for that publishing, copyright. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And because it keeps going and going and going and going, and they're capitalizing on it completely, it creates a predictable revenue stream that people can go. It's like Wall Street, right? When you buy a stock for Apple, let's say, or from GM, or from whatever, from some huge blue chip company, you're betting on their repeated ability to generate cash flow, consistent cash flow, because people borrow money against that to go start up other businesses and grow the country, right? And grow the world and create new technologies. Well, they're, for the first time ever now, the music business revenue has become predictable.
Mm-hmm.
It's predictable, right? It's predictable enough that they've turned big, huge catalogs from the Bob Dylans and the Bruce Springsteens and the Pink Floyds into blue chip stock asset class investments, where BlackRock and these big, huge companies that handle everybody's pensions and all that crap are in. They're in on it. They would never touch the music business with a 10-foot pole before.
Yeah.
But now they are. Why? Because the predictable revenue is there. So for a writer, man, the more that, first of all, it's still about the music, but you can exploit way more copyrights now that generate money.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right?
Like, say, like a McKinsey thing before. Well, okay, so the Allen thing, I make decent on streaming from that. It's still probably still more terrestrial radio. I haven't done head-to-head comparison, but probably that just because it generates so much more per spin than streaming does. But it's helping that long tail. It's almost found money. It's like it's helping that long tail of a hit. For an artist like McKinsey, the only money I would have made would have been like, hey, selling records out of your trunk or at the show, pay me for that, which is, I'm not talking about McKinsey, but just in general for an indie artist, that'd be pretty spotty to try and track down that money, right?
Yeah, you're not going to get that from an artist.
It's
going to go in the gas tank.
Yeah. I've had those situations where you're like, oh, I know I cut a couple of your songs. I need to get it to you, but I never saw a penny. So what it makes me think about is going, okay, if I'm spending the time with an unknown artist who doesn't have big numbers, they better put the freaking song out, or I've wasted several hours where I'm not going to. Now, here's the thing: as songwriters, we always waste a lot of hours. Waste, I use in air quotes, because anytime we're working, we're writing, we're buying a lottery ticket, But going, okay, if I'm right with this artist, even the win is much smaller, right? Even like what we're aiming for is a much smaller win that could probably happen if they're unknown. Versus a day where I'm swinging for Kenny Chesney or something that could like make six figures.
Right.
It may make nothing. It may make six figures. Most times it makes nothing, that sort of thing. But what it makes me look at going, okay, this is an indie artist. They're looking at stuff for them. I want to have a really freaking good batting average on that, because if they put it out, it may have some long tail, but I got to at least hit 150,000 streams on this, so I end up getting.
But here's what I want you to think about. Okay. Like, because the 4-minute mile has been broken. So, okay. The 4-minute mile, let's say, is an indie artist without record label representation who can manage to generate 10 million streams. Okay, 10 million streams. So what do you make on 10 million streams?
Well, it depends if I'm on all 10 million songs, on all 10 million streams, right? So that's it could be off 100 songs, which is 100,000 streams a song if they got 100 songs out there.
Fair. But what do you make on 10 million streams? That's the question.
Let's see. 10 million streams. Publishing makes about 10 grand off Spotify, another 16 off Apple. So if we're talking Spotify, where most of the streaming is, 10 grand goes to the writers and publishers to be divided.
Okay. So, we had 8,400 artists that generated this kind of traffic in 2020. Then we had like 11,500 that generated this kind of traffic in 2021. I haven't looked at the number for 2022.
Yeah.
But it's growing exponentially, right? As people are figuring out two things. Number one is that, Spotify's distribution, it's not marketing. So we're going to have to work it to get it there. Okay. And then you've got guys like me trying to figure out how to build that on ramp for my artists to editorial playlisting where we get these free streams and everything. Okay. Before, where you're only going to, over a 30-year period, you're only going to maybe get 10 or 15 copyrights exploited really well that are going to make you money. Now you can have, 50, 60, 70 a year making varying levels of income. You know what I mean? And if we have artists that have gone from 0 to 10 million streams in a year, right? 3,100 new artists figured out how to do that. Like, then, it's how big of a stretch is it to go from 10 million to 100 million?
And that's the thing.
Okay.
To me as a writer, I'm looking at going, okay, where are my best bets for somebody, trying to pick a good horse, right? Who has potential, and mixing like the potential with the people that are further up the ladder. Of course, as many as you can get further up the ladder, do that, right? I mean, I'm giving preference to people that have the record deals, that have the streams, all that kind of stuff. But when I'm looking at it like a more of a spec write, going, okay, all right, I'm looking at their numbers too. I'm looking at their stuff and going,
sure,
all right, if we get a cut, it looks like that should pay for the day. And you do start stacking those up, and over time. And as a songwriter, none of us should be banking our future on one song. That's the thing of blue collar, working class. I'm here to get a whole bunch of cuts every year and so that little tributary, that little stream gets wider and wider and deeper over time. And hopefully, you get some hits along the way to beef that up. Turn the spigot on for a while, and before it squeezes back down again.
So when you think about like investing, money, it's common knowledge that you're absolutely crazy to have all your money in like one stock.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do they say? They say you got to diversify your money, right? Because God forbid you've got all your money invested in Apple, it's doing really good, and somehow the CEO gets caught with a pale Asian boy with one leg, and is in a cage in his basement, and you're like, oh my God, like then everybody, what happened to Bud Light? Done, toast,
Yeah.
So the stock tanks and you're screwed on your money, right? Well, it's kind of like when you go and when you do some of those breakdowns of writers on albums, like the Morgan Wallen stuff, there's a lot of usual suspects around any given particular artist, isn't there? Right? Those are the ones that artist likes to write with, and they're having success with it. That's not broke. They're not going to fix it, right? They shouldn't. So it's tricky to get in there. And then all of a sudden something happens to that artist. They stop. They, God forbid they get hit by a bus or something, whatever. There it is. Now their revenue stream's gone. But, looking at it this way through diversification, and you're laying all those eggs out there, if you've got 50, 60, 70 artists, all these relationships are making you money.
That's
know what I mean?
Thing.
And if
you
one
have
goes
to
sideways,
you have to be
then
hustling.
You're not impacted that much.
You have to be hustling to. I mean, there's a Canadian independent artist that my buddy Aaron Goodman brought me in on to write with. Like, hey, I'm co-producing this artist. She's a sweetheart. She's good. Whatever. Let's. We're writing some for her project. I'm like, all right. Because Aaron's a buddy of mine. I love writing with Aaron. If I get in a room with Aaron, it's a good day. Let's do this, even though we're not writing for him. Well, I've written 4 songs with this artist. She's cut all 4, and so far 2 of them have been released to radio. The other 2 are still in the can. I'm like, okay, all right. That's a good day. That's a win. That's a net positive day. For one thing, it doesn't take all day to write anyway. So I'm still doing other stuff and investing in other things in a day. But that I go, okay, That's it. That pays for the day. That makes you feel fine. You know, she's independent. It's not going to get massive radio airplay. It's not going to chart, but it's bringing in revenue for a day. I got to hang out with some people I enjoy. And other things like Mackenzie, you know, I have a good batting average with Mackenzie songs. And I was like, okay, that's cash flow positive day. Let's go. And it will continue to be as long as she has stuff up on streaming and as long as those platforms are there, you know. And so that's why I look at it and go, okay, you know, in between the bigger charting things, like you just got to be hustling. You got to be hustling. You got to be doing your due diligence and going, okay, does this person, do they have numbers already? Do I feel like they're going to have the numbers? Do they feel like they know what they're doing and they're going to be working hard? Because it's an investment and it is kind of a long-term thing too.
Well, how about like, you know, figuring out a way to scrub Spotify for, you know, using the Discovered On to find other indie artists that you see are up and coming. You know, a lot of them, especially for a writer like you, where you've got a couple feathers in your cap that really matter to the kind of artists that you want to write with.
Yeah.
They're going to take that call. You know what I mean? And they're going to be like, you know, hey man, just letting you know, if you're interested, love to write with you. Like, I love what you're doing. I see what you're doing and it's sounding good. And, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I just think that before it was just it's going to be much more volume of content now and less like big hits.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I like going, if I'm writing with some of these indie artists, going, I hope they cut it and release it. I like that hope better than I hope they get a record deal one day. And I'm along for the ride.
Yeah.
Because that used to be the conversation of, I hope they get signed somewhere. And then maybe, you know, well, then I'm on the bus.
You hope
maybe
the song makes a record. Yeah.
Right.
Like, you know.
And so that
and
is
then
better going.
The song's going to be a single.
Yeah.
Because now it doesn't even matter. Like, if you got a song on the record, it's not a single, you're just as broke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
you're not making much. You hope they have a hit. So at least you get some downstream streams. So that can be better for you, you know.
It's good. It's more, but it's better for your brand than it is for your pocketbook, right?
It looks better on the wall than it does on the wallet sometimes, right?
Yeah. So then the final thing that I'll say is this: we're still in the middle of this, y'all. We're Spotify is just, for what they're bringing to the table, it's making too much money. Like, it's just not going to last that long, right?
Yeah.
But you know, with the stuff that I mean, Taylor Swift just released 1989, her version of 1989, which is putting a huge dent in Shamrock Capital's investment of her first 6, because that record alone, 1989, was 30% of all her traffic to all 6 records.
Wow.
Streaming. 30% of it was to 1989, and then Reputation was the second one, which is probably like another 25%, something ridiculously huge.
Yeah.
So like 2 records are like more than half of all of the revenue that's being created. And she started with the smallest ones. What's my point? She owns the traffic. Okay. She owns the masters. She owns everything. The label helps her. That's what they do. So this is where this works. At some point, y'all, radio's going to drop out. It's just going to stop. And then this is going to be the way that it's done anyway. But the relationship that Spotify has with the music business is going to inevitably end the way that we know it at some point. Does that mean Spotify's going away? No. But you better damn sure know that the writers are gonna get more money, you know, because it's your work. The more this indie thing grows, right? The more it's decentralized, the more leverage that you have with this whole thing. Because the bottom line is that, you know, if the artists own the traffic, whatever they're paying the label and Spotify for streams is too much.
Yeah.
Right. So that said, I mean, way back when we talked about, when we were kind of on a little blockchain kick there, one of the companies we mentioned was a company called Audius, which was like the Spotify of blockchain, right? But they weren't out yet. So we read the white paper on them. Like, here's what they're going to do. Here's what this is about. They're basically directly paying artists for the traffic that they create. Okay. And I just signed up for them today. They just released as beta.
Mhm.
Okay. So they're trying out some different things. And, you know, when you own the traffic, okay, like I'm trying to come up with a with a with a with a reason for this, but let's just say you make the world's best burritos. Okay.
Mhm.
Let's say you make the world's best burritos. And if you go and you make them in bulk and you're going to go sell them to this, local store down the street and they're going to pay you like a buck a burrito for them. Right. And then that becomes like a big deal, right? The store's getting a lot of traffic now. Everybody loves those freaking burritos.
Yeah.
And then the big box store comes down and says, you know what? We want to get those burritos too. We'll pay you $1.50 a burrito,
Yeah.
right? What are you going to do?
Go with a better deal.
Probably go with the better deal, right?
Mhm.
So right now, everybody's still scared because Spotify don't rock the boat. Certainly, that's what radio is. Don't rock the boat because it's already sunk. And if you rock it, it may be your cabin that you get caught in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Literally, you have radio looking at Spotify to determine who's popular enough to get on the radio because we can't afford to bleed any more customers. We
Right.
need to make sure everybody's happy. So it is dying, right? But with the traffic comes the power, leverage, right? And so when a Taylor Swift wakes up one day and says, you know what, I can make way more money putting my stuff on Audius or
Mhm.
whatever, like my own damn server
Yeah.
and charging revenue for it, then that's what I'm going to do, right?
Yeah.
Because they'll go wherever I tell them to go.
Yeah.
And these artists that are generating this kind of traffic, they understand that too.
Mhm.
Those 3,100 new artists that came on board into that club of 10 million plus streams know how to market. They know how to create competitive music. They know how to tour. They know what they're doing, And so we have a lot more savvy people that are just able to make money. And I don't think that 5 years from now, it would be a stretch for a songwriter of your caliber and your mindset, your business mindset, to have, a solid 6-figure income
Mhm.
from songs that's pretty predictable.
Yeah.
That's not a boom and a bust, like starve, instead
Mhm.
of feast or famine, it's like, starve or famine,
Yeah, I call
right?
it faster famine. Yeah.
Fast or famine. Yeah. Instead of that, like, it's like selling insurance, man. It's like, residual.
Mhm.
They just keep coming in
Yeah.
because they got that traffic and it takes a while to build that up and to grow that.
Mhm.
But, when artists when stuff shifts, right? When everybody's like not afraid to leave Spotify
Mhm.
because they know their traffic's going to follow them over here, however that shakes out exactly, it's going to be met with platforms that are going to pay more money.
Yeah.
Okay. And uh and that's like the long and the short of it. Like actually with Audius, they allow you to like tip the artists and you can
Oh, that's
buy
cool.
stuff on Audius and overpay if you want to do that. Like lots of people love to overpay for vinyl and they don't even have a
Mhm.
record player
Yeah.
because they just want to support the artist. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so all these kinds of things, man, they make a big difference. But I think it's decentralized. It's a different business model, so it's weird. But I also feel like it's a lot more consistent.
Mhm.
It'll be a lot. It's not just going to be up and then gone, right? It's gonna stick around for a while, and I think that you're gonna make more money off of more songs for longer
Mhm.
than with the old business. But now it takes a while to build up your catalog, right?
Yeah.
Of song, meaning not your catalog of songs that you wrote, 'cause that's tremendous, but your catalog of songs that are generating revenue
Y
online.
Yeah.
And then the final thing I'll say is, with the leverage too, what's to stop, songwriters with a huge track record to say, you know what, like I'm gonna want some points on the record too if you want me to write with you.
That may be a whole nother episode, but that's a conversation I've been having with some other people lately going, okay, how does that shake out? Because I have been hearing about that going, here's another way of going. So on the royalty calculator, so say 500,000 streams on Spotify, the sound recording, the master,
Mhm.
$1,800 for mechanical and performance. So publishing money together is more like $550, something like that. So you're like, wait a second. So $550 for publishing, songwriting, that kind of stuff, or $1,800 for basically the label, the sound recording. Huh. That's over 3 times as much. Yeah. If you want to ride with me, how about I get a little sliver of that? Because that's a bigger pie. And I know some people are starting to do that to make it worth my time.
Yeah.
I've created that leverage in the music business.
Yeah,
or if you
there
want
you go.
this song I've already written, hey, normally I'd send this to somebody further up the food chain. Well, how about you level that out by giving me some points on that? And that's a whole different process I don't understand as far as how to open that cash register as a writer.
Yeah.
But that's something that's been been happening more.
And then here's another thing too, like just strictly on the indie level, right? Just on the indie level. I'm thinking about Randy Barber right now. He's a friend of the show. He's been on here a lot, Bar Frog Music. We just had him on talking about admin and all the stuff he does. But his song More Than 1 Year at a Time was never on a major label artist record.
Yeah.
It was strictly indie, bought and paid for by the artist, hustled by the artist, and they did so well in 2012. It was the most spun song on Music Row charts, on the Music Row stations for 2012. Song's called More Than 1 Year at a Time, and it's on the Eric Lee Bedingfield record called This Life Ain't For Everybody, okay? Now, since then, that song's been cut 4 times by other artists that generate Jacob Bryan, I think, is the biggest one. He's got like 10 or 12 million streams just on that song. And I don't believe he's a major label artist. I know when he cut it, he wasn't. He was probably a high 6-figure or 7-figure touring act that didn't have a deal. He might have one now, but I don't think he did then. There's one other artist that cut it that was probably worth 3 or 4 or 5 million streams. And then it just got cut by a major label artist whose name I can't say because we don't know if it's going to be released yet.
Right.
But, so the good song still counts and has the gift that keeps on giving. But there you're talking about one song on an indie record that, you had to be like in the know to find this thing. But now that's been cut by 4 different artists and generated over, I think, a grand total right now over 20 million streams for one song.
Wow. Yeah.
So I feel like, that the ability is still out there. People are getting more and more savvy how to do this and do this right. And they're understanding search better. They're understanding how to get on editorial playlists better. They're understanding how to exploit their own damn copyrights better. And to the point where we got 20% more artists figuring out how to make that minimum $50,000 in cash than the year before. That's astonishing. Those are all indie artists, So I think it's better for you. I think it's more money. I think it's more consistent. I think it's more like a steady paycheck as it begins to build up.
Yeah.
And and it's only going to take a couple marquee value hits to get a lot more of those indie artists coming to knock on your door like, hey, would you ride with me? I've got 2 million monthly listeners coming to you with their hat in their hand, buddy. So I think it's good for you,
Well, thank you for talking me off that ledge.
Talking you off the ledge. I think it works like that. All right, guys. Well, that's it, man. Make sure that you join the C.L.I.M.B community, that you tell a friend about our podcast. If it's helping you, it'll help them. And follow us wherever you are. This podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.
Who write a great